வட அமெரிக்க தமிழ்ச்சங்க பேரவையின் 27ஆம் ஆண்டு தமிழ் விழா FeTNA 2014 ஜூலை மாதம் 4ஆம் 5ஆம் தேதிகளில் மிசூரி மாநிலத்தின் சென்ட் லூயி மாநகரில். தமிழர் அடையாளம் காப்போம், ஒன்றிணைந்து உயர்வோம்.
Now shifting south, joining us from Atlanta, please welcome Dr. Arun Mohan, Chief Medical Officer at ApolloMD, and his guests, Mother Prabha Mohan and daughter Jaya.
Joining us from the San Francisco Bay Area, please welcome Dr. Arogyaswami Paulraj, Stanford University Emeritus Professor, and his guest, wife Nirmala. Joining us from the Big Apple, please welcome Mr. Arun Subramanian, partner at Susman Godfrey LLP, and his guest, Mother Sundari Subramanian. Joining us from Chicago, please welcome Dr. K. Sujata, President and CEO at Chicago Foundation for Women, and her guest, husband Lawrence Marks. And finally, last but certainly not least, hailing from the San Francisco Bay Area, please welcome Mr. J. Vijayan, Chief Information Officer at Tesla Motors. Good evening, everyone. I hope you all enjoyed the red carpet musical entrance. Just for the record, aside from the Law & Order and ER theme songs played for the Aruns, there is no connection between the music selection and the red carpet walk. After all, last time I checked, I was still a corporate lawyer and not a glamorous, globe-trotting archaeologist. Tonight marks a historic night for our Tamil American community. The inaugural TAP Awards Gala represents the first event of its kind in a South Indian community in the United States. Can we get a round of applause for that, please? After observing the Asian American and Jewish American communities holding events like this as a college student and later a law student, I asked, why not us? And tonight marks the progression and culmination of those why not us thoughts. It's only fitting that our Tamil community pioneered an event like this, considering the achievements and ideas Tamil Americans have pioneered in the United States. The 7 Tamil American pioneers here with us this evening represent some of the best inventors, thinkers, business leaders, engineers, lawyers, and doctors in the world. Maybe you have already heard or read about some of them. Perhaps you read in the Wall Street Journal about how Mr. J. Vijayan and his team built Corp, Tesla's homegrown software, in just 4 months, a truly incredible accomplishment. Or maybe you watched Or maybe you watched President Obama's 2012 State of the Union address in which he cited the groundbreaking economics research of Dr. Raj Chetty. Or perhaps you've come across Dr. K. Sujata's thought-provoking, empowering blog on the Huffington Post. Or maybe you scrolled across the CNN.com article in which talented lead plaintiffs counsel Arun Subramanian provided his thoughts on the LIBOR manipulation scandal embroiling Wall Street. Or perhaps you read the Wall Street Journal article about Picture RX, the healthcare venture co-founded by gifted physician and entrepreneur Dr. Arun Mohan. Or maybe you, like the rest of the country, watched in shock in September 2008 as the bottom of the stock market fell out and the United States economy experienced one of the most severe recessions in American history. Dr. Chitra Dorai of IBM Corp was on the front lines of the housing crisis. A recent article in the Wall Street Journal profiled her innovative work on IBM's digital loan processing platform, which has transformed the way borrowers experience the loan application process. Did you read these articles and blog entries on your cell phone or computer? If so, you can thank brilliant Dr. Arogyaswami Paulraj. The MIMO and MIMO OFDMA technology that he developed is the backbone of the wireless technology present in every Wi-Fi router and 4G cell phone. So the next time you send a rapid-fire tweet or text message, you will now know who made that possible. These 7 awardees are pioneers in every sense of the word. We are truly honored and privileged to have them here with us tonight. We hope that this new event will not only celebrate the accomplishments of these inaugural Tamil American pioneers, but also inspire a new generation of Tamil American pioneers. Let's give another round of applause to these 7 exceptional Tamil American pioneers. So sit back, get comfortable, and prepare to be inspired. At this time, we are going to take a short break for dinner. I would ask the awardees and their families and guests to please enter the buffet line. For the rest of the guests, please enter the buffet line when instructed to do so. Thank you, and good evening.
Welcome back. We hope you enjoyed your dinner. We will go ahead and get started with the award ceremony portion of the program now. It gives me great pleasure to begin the ceremony by recognizing the first recipient of the Tamil American Pioneer Award. The Tamil American Pioneer Rising Star Award for Excellence in Academia will be presented to Dr. Raj Chetty. Dr. Chetty is a professor of economics at Harvard University, co-director of the Public Economics Group at the National Bureau of Economic Research, and editor of the Journal of Public Economics. He received his PhD from Harvard in 2003 at the age of 23 and is one of the youngest tenured professors in the university's history. His research combines empirical evidence and theory to inform the design of more effective government policies. Dr. Chetty's work on tax policy, unemployment, and education has been widely cited in media outlets and congressional testimony. As you heard Kritika mention earlier, it has even been cited by President Obama in one of his State of the Union speeches. Dr. Chetty has been named one of the top economists in the world by New York Times and The Economist magazine. He was awarded a MacArthur Genius Fellowship in 2012. The significance of the MacArthur Genius Fellowship is that Dr. Chetty was awarded $500,000 by the John D. and Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation. According to the foundation, the fellowship is not a reward for past accomplishment, but rather an investment in a person's originality, insight, and potential. In 2013, Dr. Chetty became one of the youngest recipients of the John Bates Clark Medal, given by the American Economic Association to the best American economist under the age of 40. Notable past winners of the Clark Medal include Paul Krugman, Paul Samuelson, Milton Friedman, and Joseph Stiglitz, all Nobel laureates. In fact, 1 in 3 Clark winners has gone on to win the Nobel Prize in Economics, which is why the Clark Medal has been dubbed the Baby Nobel. Dr. Chetty was born in India and migrated to the US at the age of 9, where he grew up in Milwaukee. He was valedictorian of his high school class and went on to receive his undergraduate and doctoral degrees from Harvard. He completed each of these degrees in just 3 years. As recently as last week, Dr. Chetty's work has been recognized in significant ways. He was introduced by former President Bill Clinton before delivering the keynote address on the equality of opportunity in America at the 4th meeting of the Clinton Global Initiative America. As a Tamil community, we are proud of Dr. Chetty's accomplishments and honored by his presence today. I now call upon Mr. Muller Selvin, a current FeTNA board director, to present the award to Dr. Chetty, after which Dr. Chetty is invited to give his remarks. I present to you the first ever Tamil American Pioneer Excellence in Academia Rising Star Award recipient, Dr. Raj Chetty.
Thank you very much. It's such an honor to receive this award and participate in this great celebration of the Indian community's successes in America. I'd like to thank Chitra and Sandra and Kirtika and the FeTNA organizers for having the vision to organize this event, which I think will have a real impact in our community in the years to come. I'm especially happy to be here with my wife Sundari, who actually coincidentally we got married 10 years ago and had our wedding reception in exactly this ballroom. Both of our families are here, and many other longtime friends, all of whom have contributed greatly to my life and my success. Like many Indian families, my parents came from large families and I have many cousins. Many of us are named after my grandfather, Natarajan, who worked for India's freedom alongside Mahatma Gandhi and many others. My cousins and I all have similar looks and personalities, and so our family took to distinguishing us based on where we lived. Singapore Raj, New York Raj, Karaikudi Raj, and Boston Raj. Each of us has pursued a different, meaningful path with its own unique joys and excitement and achievements. But the challenges we face in our lives today are extremely different. One of us works at a temple in Singapore to support his family in India and cannot be with his kids as they're growing up. One has to wake up at 4 a.m. every morning to commute 2 hours to a difficult job of manual labor to support his family. And one, sadly, is no longer with us today. The story that you just heard and the description Sandy just gave turns out to be about the Boston Raj, but it could just as well have been about the New York Raj, the Karaikudi Raj, or the Singapore Raj. I think the reason it turned out this way for me is that my grandparents chose to invest their scarce resources in the education of my own parents among their various children. As many of you know from personal experience, given limited money, families in India typically choose to invest in one child's education. Thanks to that investment and her ambition and hard work, my mother, who's here today, became the first woman doctor in the Chetty community in South India. My father came from a small village near Madurai to become a professor at Columbia. I'm certain that many of us would not be here if it were not for the hard work of my parents, my wife's parents, the Sapayas who are here today, and many others in this room who overcame difficult circumstances and built one of the most successful communities in the United States. These achievements, which are often not publicly recognized, are what I think this evening really celebrates. And so my first aim of this talk is to recognize the many immigrant parents who are in the audience and thank you for all you've done that's made it feasible for us, this next generation, to do what we're doing. I think one of the great features of the TAP event is that it will give the next generation of Indian American youth a picture of the exciting opportunities that they have ahead of them. Rather than trying to describe the work that I do in my job as a professor in general terms, I thought I'd give you a concrete example that relates to my own personal story that I just described. So many of you in the audience came to the US, I think, in search of the American dream, the idea that you could come up through hard work regardless of your background or where you started. In recent work, my colleagues and I have studied whether the American dream is alive and whether the US really lives up to its reputation as being the land of opportunity. What we do in the study that I'm going to describe, which is actually summarized in the handout that you have in front of you, so you could take a look. As a professor, I always feel like I have to have a handout in any talk that I give. So what we do in this study is analyze data on 40 million children and their parents to characterize children's chances of moving up in the income distribution relative to their parents. And so this work is an example of modern work in economics, which my vision for it is essentially to apply big data to major public policy questions. So a lot of you hear about applications of big data in the private sector, like Amazon and Google using large data sets to provide better products. Similarly, my hope is that we'll be able to use big data to improve public policy and improve people's lives. And in this particular case, improve the lives of children growing up in disadvantaged low-income families. So what we do in this study is quite straightforward. We take data on 40 million kids, look at their earnings and their parents' earnings, and we ask, what is your chance of moving up in the income distribution relative to your parents? So consider a very simple measure. Your odds of moving from the bottom 20% of the income distribution, let's say you grow up in a family in the bottom fifth of the income distribution, what are your chances of making the leap all the way to the top fifth of the income distribution? We calculate that statistic for every metro and rural area in the United States, and that's shown on the map that you see here in front of you, where lighter colored areas are areas with higher levels of upward mobility, where kids from low-income families have much higher chances of succeeding. So what you see, which is really striking, is that there are dramatic differences across areas of the US in children's chances of moving up in the income distribution, in realizing the American dream in a sense. So in some parts of the US, for example, in San Jose, California, or in Salt Lake City, Utah, if you're born in the bottom fifth of the income distribution, you have nearly a 13% chance of reaching the top 20%. So 13% may not seem like a very big number, but you have to remember that you can't have more than 20% of people in the top 20%, right? No matter what you do. So 13% is actually quite high relative to places like Charlotte, Milwaukee, Atlanta, even here in the St. Louis area. If you're born in the bottom fifth of the income distribution, you have very low odds of escaping poverty. So this map has generated a lot of interest in the public debate in the US because it's very important to understand why some places in America don't offer children great chances of succeeding while others do much better, and what we can do to make the places like Atlanta, Charlotte, Milwaukee look more like Salt Lake City, San Jose, etc. And that is the type of work that we're doing in our group, trying to identify which factors drive that variation and how we might be able to change policies in order to improve mobility. For instance, by improving the quality of public education, changing segregation patterns, and so forth. So the ultimate goal of this type of research, to give a sense for the youth here of what this type of work ultimately leads to, is to shape policy. So one of the great things about this particular line of research that I've just described is that it can help break the partisan gridlock in Washington. So in recent weeks, I've spent a lot of time talking not just with President Obama and his advisors, but also with Congressman Paulraj and other Republicans, all of whom want to take action to improve social mobility in America, because this is the type of issue where both Republicans and Democrats are actually quite interested in coming together and making a difference, because there's no reason, regardless of your political views, to be against improvements in social mobility. One of the most tangible impacts of this type of work has occurred in the courtroom in an important lawsuit which some of you may have heard about called Vergara versus the state of California, which argued that regulations on teacher evaluation and hiring in California generated inequity in education and basically hampered children's chances of moving up in the income distribution. That lawsuit was brought to trial based on our research papers on the long-term impacts of teachers, which tracked 2.5 million kids from childhood to adulthood and demonstrated how the quality of teachers you have, even in 3rd grade or in kindergarten, affect how much you're earning 25 years later. So 4 weeks ago, earlier this year, I testified in this trial on behalf of the children and their parents, and 4 weeks ago, in a landmark decision that many predict will change public education in the US, the Los Angeles Appellate Court ruled in favor of the parents and struck down several laws that make it difficult for school districts to attract and retain the best teachers in public schools in the US. So ultimately, this type of work, I think, can have meaningful impacts on the lives of millions of Americans and others around the world. So in summary, how would I summarize my job, what you could accomplish as a professor? My vision of academics is that it seeks to offer rigorous answers to the most pressing challenges of our time, whether it's improving equality of opportunity, as in the study I just described, discovering a cure for diabetes and other degenerative diseases, as in my wife's stem cell lab at Harvard, or developing new quantum computing techniques that will spark a new IT revolution. So let me conclude by offering some simple advice to the youth in the audience from my own experience. I'd encourage you to pursue what you're passionate about and devote yourself to honing that skill to the best of your ability. For some of you, that might be academic research, as it was for me. For others, it might be music, starting a new business, or writing. Whatever path you pursue, I'd urge you to consider not just your own personal ambitions, but also think about how you plan to have a social impact in the coming years. My own goal is to figure out how to give children of all backgrounds an equal opportunity of succeeding. In a sense, to make the colors on the map in front of you lighter in all areas. Ultimately, I'm hopeful that every child, not just from Atlanta to San Jose, but also in Karaikuri and in Singapore, will have the same opportunities that those of us here today are lucky to have. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chetty. I am now pleased to introduce Dr. Arogyaswami Paulraj, the recipient of the inaugural TAP Lifetime Achievement Award for Excellence in Academia. A professor at Stanford University, Dr. Paulraj pioneered MIMO wireless communications, which enables wireless performance and is now incorporated into all new wireless systems. He also developed MIMO OFDMA technology, which has become the core of 4G mobile systems. Dr. Paulraj has authored over 400 research papers, 2 textbooks, and is a co-inventor in 59 US patents. He is the recipient of numerous high-profile prizes and awards. Among his many accolades is the very prestigious 2014 Marconi Prize in Fellowship. Previous recipients of the Marconi Prize include Google co-founders Larry Page and Sergey Brin. Dr. Paulraj also was awarded the 2011 IEEE Alexander Graham Bell Medal, the Padma Bhushan Award from the Indian government, the Adi Visheshtha Medal, and the Boswick Medal. He is a fellow of 7 scientific academies, including the U.S. National Academy of Engineering and the Royal Swedish Academy of Engineering Sciences. In 2004, he co-founded Vijayan Communications, Inc., which became the market leader in 4G WiMAX semiconductors and was acquired by Broadcom Corp in 2010. In 1999, he founded Iospan Wireless, Inc., which developed and established MIMO OFDMA wireless as the core 4G technology. Iospan was later acquired by Intel Corporation in 2003. In addition to his academic and business pursuits, Dr. Paulraj also served in the Indian Navy. During his 30 years in the Indian Navy, Dr. Paulraj founded 3 national-level laboratories in India and headed one of India's most successful military R&D projects, APSOH sonar. Dr. Paulraj's fun fact is that though passionate about math and physics, as a cadet at the National Defense Academy in India, he became even fonder of horses and equestrian sports and opted for the Cavalry Corps of the Indian Army. Someone persuaded him at the very last minute to change to the Navy, which was said to be more technical. After all, the cavalry option would have been an unlikely path to his later career in science and technology. Dr. Paulraj, thank you for being a pioneer in the wireless industry, Silicon Valley, and in the Tamil American community. and congratulations on receiving the inaugural TAP Lifetime Achievement Award for Excellence in Academia. At this time, I now request Dr. Balaswaminathan, TAP Awards Delegate Patron, to please rise and present Dr. Paulraj with the TAP Lifetime Achievement Award for Excellence in Academia. I also request Dr. Paulraj to address the audience at this time. Thank you. Congratulations.
I'm going to speak in English, like Raj. Never spoke English, Tamil at home for many years, but after coming to the US, it's been dropping off, so apologies. Let me start with Malay Vanakkam. So, Dr. Nandapani, friends, and I'd like to recognize Chitra Subramanian, Soundra Lakshmanan, and Subramanian. I've been getting emails from them, quite a lot of frequent emails from them over the last few months. I'm glad to be here and glad to be here this wonderful evening. It's indeed a wonderful honor to receive the Lifetime Achievement Award from the Federation of North America Tamil Sangams. I'm only too aware that there are many Tamil Indian Americans who are more deserving than me. But someone once said that the only thing worse than not getting an award that you think you deserve is getting one that you know you do not deserve. Thank you. Thank you to the Awards Committee for this nice honor. So gathered here, we are here today in St. Louis. We are mostly first and second generation immigrants from India. We carry many identities. We are first, of course, for most of us, Americans pledged to protect and defend this country. We are also next Indian Americans who bring many cultural gifts to our adopted country, from India. And finally, we are Tamilians who have a truly rich inheritance of literature and arts. Some of it we've been seeing today, and we will see more of it tomorrow. The United States offers us a big enough tent to allow all these identities to live together in harmony. Some years ago, I was considering returning temporarily, at least to India, to work on the growth of Indian telecom industry, one of my pet subjects. And one day, one of my students at Stanford, who had heard about these plans, came by, and he came from a Middle Eastern country, and came to see me, somewhat agitated, to inquire why on earth I wanted to go back to India. He described to me how back in his own home country, simple freedoms are scarce, where minorities are barely tolerated, and there's no freedom of religion. And the US, he pointed out, was so totally different. So why would I give up all this up and go back to India? So I had to tell him that both India and the United States are founded on the same democratic, secular, and pluralistic principles, where all people have equal opportunity, whatever their religion, ethnicity, language, or social class. In this respect, India and the United States are very, very similar. As immigrants in the US, we enjoy many freedoms. Freedom to build our own temples, to promote and develop our own unique culture, and to compete and aspire as any other citizen for the opportunities that America offers us. These freedoms did not come easily. Thousands of Americans have made sacrifices, including the sacrifice of their own lives, to win us these freedoms. The hard-fought battles of the American Civil War and the Civil Rights struggle have guaranteed the freedoms that you and I enjoy today. I would doubt very much that a gathering like this would have been possible 50 years ago. There are many stories of even Indian visitors to southern US states who were denied basic civil rights like access to transportation and to restaurants. We owe much to our fellow Americans who brought us these freedoms. Moreover, these freedoms also underpin the economic prosperity of the United States. And it's important to remember that it's not merely that our prosperity today really is underpinned by all the freedoms and the rights that Americans have and we have as Americans. We should also remember that such freedoms are never permanent or static. One day, we too may be called upon to make similar sacrifices to protect and strengthen these freedoms, if not for ourselves, then for our fellow countrymen. Also, as American Indians, we have to work hard that India continues to protect the freedoms that's enshrined in its constitution and to strengthen the rule of law. Many sections of people in India are yet to see the full fruits of a free India. The democratic and the secular traditions of India is also essential for India's economic progress. A vibrant Indian economy is not just good for India, but it's good for the entire world, and certainly also a huge opportunity for us here, Indian Americans. We can use our traditional links to forge new cultural and new economic ties with our country of origin. And India's prosperity is our prosperity in a very real sense. My dream for India is that it one day will be a nation with strong economy, with per capita incomes rivaling those of the Western world, where no child goes to bed hungry, and where no young person is left without opportunities to build a decent life. A country where universities are as sought after as Stanford and Harvard. A country that, along with the United States, is a beacon on the hill, a light to the world. A lifetime achievement reward perhaps suggests what may be time now to rest on one's laurels. But my wife, Nirmala, disagrees. She reminds me of the many things I get to do. She's, of course, right. Let me thank her, my two wonderful daughters, Malika and Nirupa, who are not here, and 4 lovely grandchildren who are also not here, and the larger family, my brothers here, Dr. Nirmal Raj, for all their support over the years. Before I end, let me once again thank FeTNA for this exceptional honor. I wish the organization all success. It's been a wonderful evening. Thank you and nandri.
Thank you, Dr. Paulraj. Now we move on to our next award category, Engineering, Medicine, and Science. The Tamil American Pioneer Rising Star Award for Excellence in Engineering, Medicine, and Science will be presented to Dr. Arun Mohan. Dr. Mohan is the Chief Medical Officer of Hospital Medicine at ApolloMD, a national leader in providing clinical outsourcing services. As Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Mohan works with members of ApolloMD's clinical operations team to optimize the provision of hospital medicine. He holds overall responsibility for providing leadership, direction, and administration of medical management, as well as the integration, coordination, and improvement of clinical care for hospitalist services at ApolloMD client facilities across the country. Prior to being named Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Mohan was a practicing hospitalist and held leadership roles at Emory Healthcare and Emory School of Medicine. As Medical Director of Care Coordination at Emory University Hospital, he led initiatives to increase patient flow and improve care coordination, leading to significant and sustained reductions in length of stay. As Associate Vice Chair for IT for the Department of Medicine, he led efforts to engage physicians in clinical IT efforts and use data and advanced analytics to drive performance improvement. Dr. Mohan received the 2011 Milton Hamulsky Award from the Society of General Internal Medicine for his work related to the effect of healthcare reform on hospital finances. He received his undergraduate degree from Swarthmore College and his medical degree from Emory University School of Medicine and his MBA from Emory University Goizueta Business School, where he was a Paul and Daisy Soros Fellow and received the Marion Luther Britton Award, the university's highest student honor. He completed his residency in internal medicine at Cambridge Health Alliance and Harvard Medical School. An active member of Organized Medicine, Dr. Mohan was previously on the board of the American Medical Association Foundation. He has received numerous awards for his work, including being named one of Georgia's top 40 under 40 by Georgia Trend magazine. An entrepreneur at heart, he co-founded Picture RX LLC to simplify medication information and increase patient compliance. The company recently completed a federally funded clinical trial of its core product and was acquired by Bioscape Digital in 2014. In order to keep up with his career responsibilities, his active lifestyle, and most importantly, his two young girls, Jaya and Anjali, Dr. Mohan takes his coffee seriously. He is a believer in single origin coffee that is meticulously prepared using a precision scale bird grinder and Chemex coffee maker. So that's about as detailed as you can get, and for someone who's a tea drinker, that just seems very overwhelming to me. Okay, so the man knows how he likes his coffee. All kidding aside, we are proud of Dr. Mohan's accomplishments and are honored by his presence here today. I now call upon Mr. Raj Sivaraj, a past president of the Missouri Tamil Sangam and current board member, to present this award to Dr. Mohan, after which Dr. Mohan is invited to give his remarks. I present to you the first ever Tamil American Pioneer, Excellence in Engineering, Medicine, and Science, Rising Star Award recipient, Dr. Arun Mohan.
Well, good evening. I will definitely give these remarks in English. Thank you, Senator, for this tremendous honor. And thank you to Kirtika and Senator for organizing this inspiring evening and for your hard work in bringing it to reality. I also want to thank my parents, who I'm blessed to have in the audience today. Mom and Dad, you have always supported me and all my endeavors, and I love you very much for being there, even when I was not the model son. And finally, thank you to my daughter Jaya, who looks like she's fallen asleep on my mom's shoulders there, who is also in the audience supporting me today. Without my family tolerating my often long work hours and erratic schedule, I would certainly not be standing here before you today. I have committed my life to making healthcare better for everyone living in the United States, no matter their insurance status, their race, their creed. I find the challenges in healthcare are really about justice for humankind, and that mission is so compelling to me. I haven't been able to turn away. I was asked to share a few lessons I've learned along the way, and honestly, that task is daunting because, as my parents can attest, my own path has not been so straightforward, linear, or in any way like an arrow that zings to its mark. Rather, my path has been quite circuitous. I have frequently questioned my own intentions and strategies, and I wonder if it's sheer luck or my mother's prayers that led to the successes my efforts have wrought. I certainly didn't do the work alone. I was part of these extemporaneous teams of people who grew personally close to me and who I now call my dearest friends. Truthfully, I wish I were a genius, but the genius of my work, if there is any, was of the sort that exists in the ether of thought of exchange between interested, enthusiastic people working toward a common goal. As a medical student, I was appalled when I learned the United States spends more on healthcare than any other nation in the world, yet ranks poorly on nearly every measure of health status. It's a reality that simply shouldn't be, and speaks to extreme injustice. I joined a group of 4 other medical students and public health students to organize a series of dinners on the topic. Each dinner saw more and more students. Turns out offering free food is a good strategy. And eventually we realized we had an opportunity to do something special. We started a nonprofit organization in Georgia, a student-led organization, the first in the state, that would bring together all of the health professional students together. We imagined not only including medical students, but nursing, pharmacy, public health from around the state. Believe it or not, it's unusual for students of one school to communicate with those of another, and especially rare across the borders of medicine, nursing, pharmacy, and public health. So I went to the dean of my medical school at the time to hear his thoughts and gain his support for our ideas. And unfortunately, his initial reaction was not at all what I expected. "I like your enthusiasm," he said, "but don't forget what's important. Good grades. Now is not the time." How to unbundle that reaction. Now has never been the time for any new endeavor that is sure to be time-consuming, require unforeseen resources, and divert one from the clear path of success. As a society, we tell our young people to wait until they have more experience, more knowledge, a better degree, a better job. Jane Addams used to call this the snare of preparation. The truth is, you can prepare for the right time in perpetuity. And while you wait around for the right time, the passion that can be found in life often drains away. No greatness has ever risen from inaction. And I took issue with the word enthusiasm. Enthusiasm is a word our society equates with youth and experience, even naivete. It is often used in a way that is belittling. But actually, enthusiasm is from the Greek word enthusiasmos, which means to be inspired by God. Honestly, how could one aim higher than to be enthusiastic? Has anything notable been done in our history stemmed from a lack of enthusiasm? Doesn't it feel good to be enthusiastic? I walked home that evening feeling despondent when I considered his advice. I promptly made a decision to ignore it completely, and instead I focused on what I felt was a higher calling. In short, I chose enthusiasm, and that was one of the best decisions that I ever made. We founded Health Students Taking Action Together, HealthStat, a statewide coalition of health professional students advocating for better health care in Georgia. As president and co-founder, I watched in the fall of 2001 as a series of informal dinners blossomed into a nonprofit with hundreds of student members across the state. More than 13 years later, HealthStat remains as one of the only interprofessional health student-led nonprofit organizations in the country, and has shown that students, when working across geographic and professional lines, can play a vital role in improving health care for all Americans now and in the future. I saw this when the organization successfully led efforts to limit cuts to the children's health programs in the state, and I saw this when HealthStat students stood up to protect a large safety net hospital in Atlanta. Each time, students stood up and lawmakers listened. To my dean's surprise, I'm sure, I graduated with an MD and an MBA and the top honor commencement. It turns out you can prepare for a reliable future and make a difference now. You don't have to wait. That's a lesson I took into residency. Not all of my innovations were of my own initiative. I've also learned that sometimes really great opportunities come to you, but the willingness is the key is the willingness to seize them. In my work with HealthStat, I ran across a man named Sunil Kripalani. Sunil was an internist at Grady at the time, and his area of interest was health literacy. Sunil is an unassuming man, so humble he is easy to dismiss as just a nice guy. But it also turns out that Sunil is one of those rare men with a vision and a determination to match. Sunil taught me about the millions of Americans who have limited health literacy. Limited health literacy, in turn, limits comprehension of medical information. Believing there was a need for better tools to simplify health information, we started a company called PictureRx. Our company's first product was internet-based technology that generates easy-to-understand medication instructions in a patient's preferred language. With funding from the NIH, we conducted research studies which proved the tool could increase medication adherence, improve patient satisfaction, and most importantly, reduce potentially harmful medication errors. As a testament to our potential impact, we were recently acquired this year with plans to deploy our tools in emergency rooms across the country. Most of us have a path that we think we're on, or that our parents think we're on, or that our society think we should be on. For many of us, that path is quite linear. As a child, I knew that I was supposed to get good grades, go to medical school, complete residency, earn a prestigious fellowship, and practice clinically. And while we all need a path, some sense for where we're going, given the pace of change in the world, we also need the courage to deviate from it. Who knows what the world will look like in 5, 10, or 20 years? Unfortunately, that willingness does not come easy. Sometimes it requires a push, sometimes courage, sometimes obstinance, and almost always the support of others. And that's the other lesson here. While it may be tempting to believe that any of what I accomplished, or any of us accomplished, is through our intelligence, or in my case, hard work and good looks, I know that is not the case. Everything that I was able to accomplish was with the support of others. Those people were the ones who helped me see a path outside the one I was destined for, and they supported me as I ventured into uncharted territory. Chief among those people was my parents. When I made the decision to take my medical education and career in a slightly different direction, my parents questioned me, but were also the first to support me. Many people in this room did the same, writing checks, offering words of encouragement, making phone calls, often with little or no connection to the work, but only that I, as a Tamil American or Indian American, was involved. And that is the beauty, I think, of our Tamil community. By standing behind one another, we can truly do great things. So I leave you with the nuggets of lessons I've learned so far. Number 1, be enthusiastic. Number 2, now is the time. Number 3, choose a path, but be willing to deviate from it when you feel called to do so. And number 4, we don't succeed alone. Again, thank you for this tremendous honor.
Thank you, Dr. Mohan. I am now pleased to introduce Mr. J. Vijayan, the recipient of the inaugural TAP Lifetime Achievement Award for Excellence in Engineering, Medicine, and Science. Mr. Vijayan is the Chief Information Officer of Tesla Motors. As Chief Information Officer, he is responsible for all of Tesla's information systems, including applications, infrastructure, network, operations, and security. Mr. Vijayan and his team support engineering manufacturing business groups, corporate business groups, and the global sales, marketing, and service business groups. In the extremely high ramp-up phase of building the award-winning Tesla Model S, Mr. Vijayan and his team led the foundation systems architecture and built all the core application and systems infrastructure for Tesla during the company's very critical growth. Prior to joining Tesla, he was a Senior Director IT Business Applications for VMware. At VMware, he was instrumental in leading the applications development of all business applications during a period of dramatic growth for VMware. Prior to his time at VMware, he held a variety of application management positions at Oracle. In addition to his role as one of the executives at Tesla Motors, Mr. Vijayan also serves on the AT&T Executive Advisory Council and the Microsoft CIO Advisory Council. He also serves as strategic advisor for a few startups. He has been profiled in the CIO Journal and the Wall Street Journal on numerous occasions for his pioneering work in developing Tesla's homegrown software. Mr. Vijayan and his team built the software in just 4 months, and it plays an extremely important role in Tesla's direct sale efforts. A fun fact about Mr. Vijayan is that he first met Mr. Elon Musk, chairman and CEO of Tesla Motors and SpaceX, and one of the greatest innovators of this century, in early 2010 during his first interview for a job at Tesla. Although he was selected for the job at that time, he could not take it at that time. 1.5 years later, Mr. Vijayan met Mr. Musk again, and Mr. Musk remembered him by name and remembered some of the facts he discussed in his interview 1.5 years ago. It was amazing to see Mr. Musk's memory, especially considering that he meets thousands of people while running 2 large companies, and he's also the chairman of the board for Solar City. Another fun fact about Mr. Vijayan is that he's also an avid hiker and has hiked the Yosemite Half Dome annually for 4 years in a row. The hike to the Yosemite Half Dome represents a distance of 16.5 miles round trip with an elevation of 8,842 feet. Mr. Vijayan, thank you for being a pioneer in Silicon Valley, the IT industry, and the Tamil American community, and congratulations on receiving the inaugural TAP Lifetime Achievement Award for Excellence in Engineering, Medicine, and Science. At this time, I now request Mrs. Chitra Subramanian, a former president of the Missouri Tamil Sangam and the only female president in Missouri Tamil Sangam's history, to present Mr. Vijayan with the TAP Lifetime Achievement Award for Excellence in Engineering, Medicine, and Science. I also request Mr. Vijayan to address the audience at this time. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. I'll also start in English. I guess it's a bit easier because I saw a lot of நல்ல தமிழ் அறிஞர்கள் நிறைய பேர் இன்னைக்கு காலையில் பேசினாங்க. ஸோ என்னோட தமிழை பேசி அதெல்லாம் வந்து I don't want to spoil that, so I want to get going in English. So first of all, thanks to the organizers of FeTNA, thanks to the organizers of TAP Awards, Geeta, Soundra, Chitra, Subramanian, Mani Subramanian, all of them. They've done a fantastic job of putting this event together. Very well organized, very professional. Great to see
a lot of youngsters and youth because I strongly believe anything we do today, if it doesn't impact the youth of today in a positive way, there is no real meaning because there won't be any follow-through of everything that we are doing. So I'm super impressed to see the youth participating, not just in this event, overall volunteering for several events. And example is Kirtika is one very good example of being here. So we want to see more youth participating in the community for our community to grow more and more. I also want to congratulate all the awardees. I'm very honored to not only receive the award, but also to be among all the well-accomplished people here, extremely accomplished people. So very well honored, very honored. I feel very honored here, being here. And also, I want to thank my parents for bringing me up and providing me the foundation from very humble beginnings. And also, I want to thank my family who couldn't be here today because we are planning a vacation early next week and they're preparing for that, and I couldn't get my 2 kids. So I have a lovely wife and 2 kids, a daughter, her name is Niveda, and my son, who's 5-year-old, is a very handful. His name is Surya. So thanks to them for supporting me all through, because very similar to many of us here, work crazy hours, pay less attention to the family, but they've been extremely, extremely supporting and a loving family. So thanks to them. I want to take a few minutes about talk about Tesla, and maybe want to share a little bit about how I got into Tesla. I think it might be useful for especially the youth here. So, like Kirtika said in the introduction, I was at VMware for 4.5 years. Great experience, great company, grew extremely fast as a public company, growing, doubling pretty much every year in revenue, and more than that in the market cap. Great experience being there. So I was doing great. Then I got a call from Tesla. I was not really looking for a job, but they called me, and I went through, long story short, went through interview process, met several people, all the executives, including Mr. Musk. And within a few months to almost a year, I got the feeling it's going to really change the world. But it was very early stage of Tesla, so there was a lot of skepticism in the market whether they would even survive, because history says there are a lot of companies that were literally dead. And Tesla was the first car company that went public in 90 years of US history. And there were several other companies that went in and kind of went into the ground. So, but still, I had a strong feeling about the vision of Elon Musk based on my discussion. So, primarily went and met Mr. Musk. Actually, the recruiter who called me I asked her, like, what's it about? Is it the same job that I discussed with you a year and a half ago? She said, honestly, I don't know Jay, because Mr. Musk really remembered your name. He said, I want to talk to Jay. I was super impressed, and she said that she didn't know what job it was. She said, you should directly ask Mr. Musk. So I went there and I spoke to him for an hour, and I was very impressed, and he laid out the same vision that he spoke to me a year and a half ago about Tesla, what he's planning to do, how he's planning to change the world, how he is really going to have a sustainable energy car, not only at Tesla and with SolarCity and several other things. So I was super impressed. Went back home, discussed with my wife. It took a couple of days, and I had to leave a lot on the table in my current job. And it was a risky proposition, but I had a strong feeling Tesla is going to be successful. Because Tesla was a groundbreaking company in everything. And seeing that winning all awards in the automotive industry, in the first year it was released, every single award the automotive industry has, from the design to everything. It was a great feeling. So one point I want to share among this is to, especially for the youth and youngsters, is you want to see when things are dire, you want to see a new beginning in there. And if you look at everything as an end, you're not going to get any kind of motivation. You have to see it as a beginning. So for example, when the stock market tanked in 2008, a lot of people lost money, but at the same time, if you see, there are a lot of people made a lot of money from 2008 to now. It's crossed the peak of where it was in 2008. So it was a new beginning for a few people. So that's how the way you need to look at it is, same thing with the relationships. I'll probably steal a few things from Tony Robbins' clinic, right? So what do you do when you start a relationship? So when you're with a partner or with a wife, when you start initially, you might say, oh, you will be glad to take out the trash. You'll say, wow, I'm going to take out the trash. You're going to be really happy doing it. But same after a few years, think about it. They're going to say, what? Am I a janitor for you? So that's going to be the comment. My point here is, it's a mindset that is important on what you do. So when you think about anything as a beginning of a relationship, either a job or a family or anything, it's going to be different. Your motivation level is going to be different. So I think that's an important message, mainly for the youth. And yeah, Kritika and Sondra asked me to share a few obstacles I've faced in my career as well. So there are a lot of things, hardships, and it was not easy path, but I feel it's gratifying to come across all of those. But I think after coming across several things in my career, the most important obstacle I would feel is a self-imposed obstacle. And I saw this with me when I was young. And I see this with several youngsters when they come up in their career. Many people kind of come and ask me for advice. And many times when they describe what they're going through, it is self-imposed. Because people feel they don't have something, and that's the reason why they're not coming up in their career. Because they focus on the wrong thing. So people have excuse like, okay, I don't have an MBA, that's why I cannot get promoted. That's not the case. If you can deliver, and if you continue to deliver value to your company, to your organization, or for that matter, if you have a product, your customers, it's automatically going to go up. You're going to go up in your career, or your company is going to go up in the market value. So all of those will happen. So I think the self-imposed obstacle is very important. Once I kind of came across that and say, okay, I can do anything that is anything I can think of, I can imagine of. And one thing Tesla also taught me, and Elon Musk, he did say to me once is, people don't know their real capabilities. Only when someone pushes them to perform or deliver, that's when majority of the time they know what their real capabilities are. Because it's true with me, it's true with several people in my team as well at Tesla, because there are a lot of things what we did, I don't think any other normal team would do. And I think it was because the whole environment was so innovative, and everyone was towards delivering something to the company. So that's about the obstacle. And then another, probably they asked me to share a tip for success. In extremely high-paced environments, I think all of us are in different industry. We are in very high-paced environments, and stress is an important factor at different levels. Right? Stress is for everyone, for kids at school, for people at job, maybe IT or research, or doctors, high intensity. So I want to share one important point which I learned is stress is not from external. The events that happen. So one example I could give is, if you see there might be an event, same event, 2 or 3 different people would react to it differently. Some people will take it so easily without any problems. You could see another person taking the same thing and getting completely stressed out, emotionally down. And the reason for that is the meaning that you give for that event is stress. So I think that's an important fact that kind of came to light to me. Once you come across that and what meaning you give to events, then the way you can handle stress is much, much easier, and you can come up in life much faster, because everyone has stress. It's about how each one handles stress is the most important one. I want to also mention to especially youngsters, when you grow up, become big in life, don't forget your roots. I think the roots are very important for me. At different stages, it keeps me very well grounded on where I came from, because it is very, very important. Probably I'll share a very small joke and then end my speech, which is related. So there was an entrepreneur who came in from India, I say, and he had a lot of money, and then he also raised more funds, and he created an extremely nice, great-looking office. It was sitting in office space, and then he was sitting in the office. There was a glass door on the other side, and first time someone is coming in to see him, and he wanted to act busy, and he took the phone and he started talking in the phone with a lot of business lingo, with a few million and billions of dollars. And the person came inside the door. He was patiently waiting on the door for like probably 5-10 minutes. And then he just hung up the phone and said, like, how can I help you? And the person said, sir, excuse me, I think I'm here to connect your phone. So the point I want to make there with that joke is, it's be realistic about everything and don't forget your roots. With that, I want to thank everyone. Thank you. Thanks for this opportunity.
Now we move on to our next award category, Law, Philanthropy, and Public Policy. The Tamil American Pioneer Rising Star Award for Excellence in Law, Philanthropy, and Public Policy will be presented to Mr. Arun Subramanian. Mr. Subramanian is a partner in Susman Godfrey's New York law office. He was voted into partnership at the age of 31, making him one of the youngest lawyers ever voted into the partnership in the firm's 31-year history. He has successfully represented both plaintiffs and defendants in a wide variety of high-stakes commercial cases, including intellectual property, breach of contract, life settlement, unfair competition, antitrust, bankruptcy, and fraud litigation. He has served as a law clerk at every level of the federal judiciary, including the Supreme Court of the United States, and utilizes his extensive court experience to achieve winning results for his clients. Mr. Subramanian joined the firm after completing judicial clerkships for Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the U.S. Supreme Court, Judge Dennis Jacobs on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit, and Judge Gerard Lynch on the U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York. Since joining his firm, he has won over $200 million in judgments and settlements for his clients. Mr. Subramanian received his undergraduate degree from Case Western Reserve University and his law degree from Columbia Law School, where he served as executive articles editor of the Columbia Law Review. He currently serves on the board of directors of the Review. The Arun Subramanian who is sitting before you is representative of the clean-cut attorney type, whose desire it is to ensure justice in the world. However, we have come to find out that there is a hidden rock star under this persona. Because in college, Mr. Subramanian had green hair and was a DJ on a local radio show. Ironically, his DJ name was TI-85. That being said, we are proud of Mr. Subramanian's accomplishments and are honored by his presence today. I now call upon Mr. Joe Daniel, the current president of the Missouri Tamil Sangam and FeTNA board member, to present the award to Mr. Subramanian, after which Mr. Subramanian is invited to give his remarks. I present to you the first ever Tamil American Pioneer Excellence in Law, Philanthropy, and Public Policy Rising Star Award recipient, Mr. Arun Subramanian.
I forgot that I told anybody about the green hair, so that's now going to haunt me for the rest of my days. Thanks to FeTNA for this great honor, and to Kirtika and to Sandra for organizing this really great event. I'm glad that you're doing this, and I hope this becomes a tradition for many years to come. I was thinking to myself on the way here that this is actually the first Tamil conference that I've been to where the primary objective has not been to find myself a wife. And so, like to first start by congratulating all the other awardees today. I mean, looking at their accomplishments, they're truly spectacular. I mean, one person received a Genius Fellowship, and we have another whose official title is Master Inventor. So we know that we're in a pretty heady company. As for me, I'm the lawyer. You know, we're in America, so if you want to get anything done, eventually a lawyer gets involved at some point in the process. So that's me, and so thanks for having me today. Now it's the 4th of July, and of course nothing says 4th of July celebration like spending an evening at the St. Louis Airport Renaissance Hotel. So here we are. But in all seriousness, discussing American pioneers is exactly what this holiday is all about. And a pioneer, we haven't really talked about what a pioneer is, but it's someone who blazes a trail. Someone who doesn't just succeed, but succeeds through adversity and through uncertainty. And I've had the great honor of being in the company of many pioneers throughout my life. In 2006, I had the great honor of working with Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg at the Supreme Court of the United States. Now, everybody knows who she is, and she's a household name. But over 50 years ago, she couldn't get a job at a law firm because she was a woman. And she was rejected from a Supreme Court clerkship herself because the Justice, Felix Frankfurter, wasn't ready to hire a woman. And when she was at Harvard with a group of very few women who had been accepted into one of the first classes where women were even allowed to attend Harvard, she was famously asked with the other students to justify why she was taking a seat that would have been occupied by a deserving man. Ever since, Justice Ginsburg dedicated her life to fighting oppression and discrimination against women and other minorities, and at the age of 81, she is the leader of the liberal wing of the United States Supreme Court. When I'm 81, I hope I'm able to walk and talk, but Justice Ginsburg is still writing fiery dissents as she did just this Monday in the Hobby Lobby case, which you may have seen in some of the papers. But I don't need to go that far to find true American pioneers, because I've seen them in my own family. My sister Indu, who couldn't be here today, is an accomplished pulmonologist and turned down lucrative private opportunities to resurrect the residency program at a public hospital system in Oakland, California. She did all this while raising 2 wonderful, beautiful children after being diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, a disease of the nervous system that presently has no cure. I think they have the wrong Subramanian up here on the stage today. And of course, my parents, who are in the audience here. Like many of you here today, my parents came to this country with very little, and they started out with much less than I had growing up. When I was a kid, I had a Nintendo, a computer, a Walkman, anything I needed, anything I asked for. One of my clearest memories, though, from childhood is visiting the small village where my father grew up. And he showed me a tiny radio that he had put together, just so his family would have something to listen to. Somehow, he made it from that village to the Indian Institute of Technology, to a PhD right here at Washington University in St. Louis, to a 30-year career in the field of engineering. Like my father, my mother came to this country leaving most of her loved ones and family behind while raising 2 small children. And she was raising 2 small children in a land where everything was foreign, everything was new. But the most interesting fact, the most amazing fact, is she did all that while taking classes and building a career of her own, ending up and retiring just a few years ago from the Houston Police Department. My parents made great sacrifices in their own lives to give their children tremendous opportunities. They are the true Tamil American pioneers here tonight, and I'm sure that there are many more here in the audience. All try to do is follow their example. And it's an exciting and important time to be a lawyer in America. With gridlock in Washington, the enforcement of the law and protection of individual rights, for better or worse, is up to us lawyers. Today we have a crisis in immigration, with millions in danger of deportation, including children who have spent most of their lives here, and millions more who have been shut out at the door. Lawyers are on the front lines to protect the rights of people who otherwise would not have a voice. And as we finally recover from the economic recession that hit in 2008, one of the worst since the Great Depression, we are just scratching the surface of the abuses committed by the banks that brought us to the brink of disaster. Holding these banks accountable for what they did is what I have spent most of my career doing, and hopefully by continuing to do so, we can make sure that what happened in 2008 never happens again. Now, make no mistake, given the opportunities that I've had, I don't consider myself to be a pioneer at this point. But I hope that by continuing to fight the good fight, I can follow in my parents' footsteps and really become one. We talked a lot about the Tamil American community, but I wanted to reflect a little bit about today, because it's Independence Day. It's the day that the Declaration of Independence was signed. And that was 238 years ago today, on the very first Independence Day, where a group of, not of career politicians, but lawyers, scientists, businessmen, and doctors put their personal pursuits to the side to join with each other and build a new nation. They didn't know whether they would be successful or even if they would survive, but they were willing to do it to better the lives of the people in their community. They were the first American pioneers. Just like the founders, the Tamil American community in America is full of pioneers in many different fields: science, medicine, law, and business. Not just the people here on stage, but in the audience too. And just like the founders, we have the ability to shape this country and improve it for everybody. It's an honor to be a part of this community. Thank you for this great honor, and have a great 4th of July.
For excellence in law, philanthropy, and public policy. Dr. K. Sujata is the president and CEO of the Chicago Foundation for Women, a grant-making organization dedicated to increasing resources and opportunities for women and girls in the greater Chicago area. Highlights of her illustrious career include serving as Director of Programs for the Eleanor Foundation, Executive Director of APNA-GAR, Director of the Chicago Continuum of Care, now the Chicago Alliance to End Homelessness, and Director of Planning and Development of Interfaith Housing Development Corporation. Additionally, she serves on the board of the Donors Forum and the steering committee of the Asset Funders Network. She is the founding director of the South Asian American Policy and Research Institute. Before joining the nonprofit sector, Dr. Sujata received her PhD at Northwestern University, her MBA from IIT, and studied engineering in India. A fun fact about Dr. Sujata is that she ran and finished the Chicago Marathon when she turned 50. Dr. Sujata is a true pioneer for her advocacy of women's rights in the South Asian community, and for her promotion of science, technology, engineering, and medicine education among girls. She is one of the leading women active in the philanthropic sector. In a 2012 Huffington Post blog, she described her philanthropic work as follows: I use a strategic approach to donate money to organizations that support women and girls. My philanthropy funds work that is providing solutions. I do this for 2 main reasons. 1, women are more likely to reinvest in their community, and 2, women and girls issues only receive 7.3% of philanthropic money. For me, this sheds light on the incredible impact and need for directing support to nonprofits that improve the lives of women and girls. If women don't support other women, who will? Dr. Sujata, thank you for dedicating your life's work to supporting other women and for being a pioneer in the Tamil American community. And congratulations on receiving the TAP Lifetime Achievement Award for Excellence in Law, Philanthropy, and Public Policy. At this time, I now request Mrs. Alamila Lakshmanan, TAP Awards Gala patron, to present the TAP Lifetime Achievement Award for Excellence in Law, Philanthropy, and Public Policy to Dr. K. Sujata. Mrs. Lakshman was the first TAP Awards Gala patron, and we remain very grateful for her willingness to support this program. I also request Dr. Sujata to address the audience at this time. Thank you and congratulations.
Good evening. I am so honored to receive this Tamil American Pioneer Award and to be among this really illustrious group of honorees. Thank you, Lakshmi, or Deepa, I think people know you as, for nominating me, and to Sandra and Kirtika and their advisors for including me in this great group of folks. It has been a little disconcerting, I must say, to see my name in print with a prefix, I haven't used in nearly 15 years, as Dr. K. Sujata. It was about 15 years ago that my journey in nonprofits began, and it always begs the question from people when they find out that I studied engineering and am now running a nonprofit foundation. And that doctorate, it was in material science and engineering, nothing to do with what I do today. I'm also assuming that it was this shift that has a lot to do with my being nominated for the award today as well. I've been thinking about what this idea of a pioneer means, and I looked up the word, slightly different definition in the Oxford English Dictionary. I grew up in India, so it's the Oxford English Dictionary. It defines the word as one of body of foot soldiers marching in advance with spades, etc., to prepare the road for main body. I like this definition more than the others of beginner of enterprise or explorer, because it really talks about beating a path when not many people have gone before. But I like the idea that this is also a way of opening up possibilities. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. This desire to take a path that was different began when I was a teenager, deciding on my career. I remember my father telling me that I should decide on a career that, as he put it, will put food on the table. Or rather, make me self-sufficient. He was a progressive man and wanted to be sure that he raised daughters who were independent. Growing up in India at a time when options for professional careers were limited to teachers, doctors, or engineers, I chose engineering, not because I wanted to do something very different or I wanted to do something groundbreaking, but I could not stand the thought of dissecting animals. I still remember, and it still grosses me out to this day, the thought of dissecting frogs or even earthworms. So I ended up being the only woman in my graduating class in metallurgy. Actually, there were very few of us, period, in the engineering school at the College of Engineering in Pune, back in the day. As the only, or one among a few, we had the opportunity to set our course, both a freedom and a responsibility. With the freedom to make choices came the responsibility to try and be the best. I had to work harder to keep up with the boys and yet retain a sense of self. This responsibility of being the only or being the first has meant a strong need to give back, to be a good role model, and to strive for a reputation of the highest integrity. This is also a legacy left behind by my father. While working in industry, I was able to do an MBA and continue to volunteer for an organization working with South Asian immigrant battered women in the Chicago area called Apna Ghar, or Our Home. This turned into an unexpected offer to run the nonprofit. This shift in career from material science to nonprofits was then not because I had a higher calling or it was a well thought out plan for my future, but a chance to work on a challenge. The challenge of turning around a struggling organization. The fact that it happened to be a nonprofit is neither here nor there. The fear of making such a huge transition was completely mitigated by my supportive spouse. He wholeheartedly encouraged me to take the plunge with the famous last words, "Well, you don't seem to be loving your job," which was an important criteria for him. And even more importantly, he said, "Well, we don't really need the money." This was talking about a 60% loss in my income if I took the job. My work and experience at Apnaghar have been the most transformative periods of my life. My husband is here today, and I owe this award to him. It is his birthday today, and he has chosen to spend it with all of you and continuing to support me. Happy birthday, Lori, and thank you for being here. At every stage of my life, people have taken a chance on me, believed in me, and this in part has contributed to my success. My father believed that I could be an engineer, so what if I was a girl? The executive who hired me at the cement company, with virtually no women in any kind of technical jobs, thought that I could inject energy and bring change to an old male-dominated plant. The founders at Apnaghar believed that I would turn it around even though I had absolutely no experience in managing nonprofits. It was up to me to live up to all of these people and their expectations. There really was no other option. But there are some things that I cannot take any credit for, nor can these mentors, nor my own hard work for being here today. I certainly have no part in my Tamil genes. I can only express gratitude that I'm blessed with the family into which I was born. Nothing expresses this as well as the poem I'm about to recite from my late uncle, A.K. Ramanujan, who was a poet and a linguist. He wrote this about my grandfather, A.A. Krishnaswamy Iyengar, who was a mathematician. So both of them were pioneers in their own time, and certainly far more accomplished than I can ever hope to be. But they remain true inspirations. Here's the poem. Sky man in a manhole, with astronomy for a dream, astrology for nightmare. Fat man full of proverbs, the language of lean years, living in square after almanac square, prefiguring the day of windfall and landslide, through a calculus of good hours, clutching at the tear in his birthday shirt, as at a hole in his mildewed horoscope, squinting at the parallax of black planets, his tiger, his hair, moving in Sanskrit zodiacs, forever troubled by the fractions, the kidneys as his Tamil flesh, his body, the great bear, dipping for the honey, the woman's smell in the small curly hair down there. Thank you all so very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sujata. Now we move on to the final category for the evening, finance and business. The Tamil American Pioneer Rising Star Award for Excellence in Finance and Business will be presented to Dr. Chitra Dorai. Dr. Dorai is an IBM Distinguished Engineer and a Master Inventor, with a record of world-renowned research in creating transformative innovations for IBM's clients in banking, financial markets, and media and entertainment. Her work on customer-focused analytics in mortgage servicing has helped thousands of struggling homeowners through various homeownership retention programs and alternative workout options during one of the most challenging times in the history of the U.S. housing market. In short, she helped people stay in their homes. In 2011, Dr. Dorai was a recipient of IBM's highest honor, the Gerstner Award for Client Excellence, for her contributions to IBM's mortgage servicing business and to the customer. According to Information Week magazine, she is considered one of the most decorated women in technology, with 40 patents to her name. Dr. Dorai has co-authored over 100 peer-reviewed technical papers in premier IEEE and ACM conferences, journals, and books, and she has received 4 Best Paper awards at international conferences. She graduated with a B.Tech degree in electrical engineering from IIT Madras and a Master of Science degree from the Indian Institute of Science in Bangalore and a PhD in computer science from Michigan State University. Dr. Dorai has been able to use her expertise outside of the banking and finance realm as well, such as researching ways to develop techniques for automated movie analysis. She had the opportunity to review this work with Hollywood film editor, sound designer, and Oscar winner, Mr. Walter Murch. So from keeping people in their homes during the mortgage crisis to improving movies in Hollywood, Dr. Dorai's impact has been profound. We are proud of her and are honored that she is here today with us. I now call upon Mr. Joe Daniel, a current FeTNA board director, to present the award to Dr. Dorai, after which Dr. Dorai is invited to give her remarks. I present to you the first ever Tamil American Pioneer Excellence in Finance and Business Rising Star Award recipient, Dr. Chitra Dorai.
Thank you, everyone. It's always hard to go the last, right? All of your very beautiful lines are already spoken by the previous speakers. It's been a great, amazing evening. As I was listening to all the speakers, it occurred to me the celebration is really not about us, or only about us who are on the stage. The celebration is really about everyone in the world. It's the celebration of all. It's a celebration of all the past achievements of people who have come here. Waves of Indian Americans, Tamil or otherwise, who paved the road of success for the future generations to follow, and all the youngsters who are here. Who knows? Professor Paulraj in the afternoon mentioned that we have to make great strides in public services. Who knows, Arun's Jaya or my son Neil and countless other children who have been patient and listening to us. We may have our own senator or a congressman or woman and maybe a future president here. So thank you everyone, and let's applaud all of you. So, thank you FeTNA for making me part of this wonderful celebration. And thank you, Kirtika, Sandra, and other Chitra, and all the organizers behind this event. It's been an incredible evening, listening to the accomplishments of what my fellow awardees have done. So congratulations to all of you. So I'm so honored to be part of this august company. So I wanted to also thank you. Of course, the family is always the last one to be thanked, and so definitely, not the least. So behind every man there is a woman, but behind this woman there is definitely a very successful career person of his own, and also supports me in all of the undertakings I do. So thank you very much, Sunil, for being here and for sharing this evening. And I have to also especially thank my son, who spent 23 hours traveling along with me, and would rather be on his iPad playing apps for days. I know, so thank you. And I would also like to thank my friend who is representing my family. She's a friend of 20 plus years since grad school. I'm so happy to have you here, Geeta. So, as I was thinking about today's remarks that the organizers had asked me to do, I said, this is a very different menu for me. As you gathered, I'm a technical person. So in IEEE and ACM conferences where I'm delving deep into the intricacies of machine learning algorithms as a scientist, as a researcher. And of late I've been also giving the voice or providing the voice of an industry expert, having done a lot of work in banking, especially in mortgage industry. So today I thought I'd leave those voices behind and use my personal voice as a change. Let's see how much trouble I can get myself into. So, as I thought about this award, the tip I had given, as you see in the program, that the thing that has always guided me through my career, choices in my education or choices in my assignments as I conducted research over a number of topics. The thing, the common refrain that has been the foundation is one of working on an important problem. I read this Hanning's remark about if you don't work on important problems, you don't do important work, and that kind of stayed with me all throughout my life. So I hope. So how did a person trained in computer science, in computer vision, I was really studying how to make computers see like humans, ended up being in this place, receiving an award for work in business. So actually the seeds for that, I would say, were laid long time ago. As I grew up in a household where there was an emphasis of giving back, my mother's advice has always been, when you are blessed with the riches of something, it's your responsibility to use it to the common good. And I certainly was, as you've seen from the arc of my education, studies came very easily to me. Like things come, music or dance comes easily to other people. And so Amma's advice has been, you've been given the blessing of Saraswati, and you need to be you cannot be squandering it away. And it has taken quite a while actually to find the right kind of setup to really put it into use for the larger good of the people, right? So as I went through my studies in engineering at IIT and then IISc, and I finished my PhD, and I joined IBM Research with the thought of finding that opportunity where the work I would do would actually impact not just the bottom line of a company, of a private institution, but also for the broader good of the community. And that came during the housing crisis, right, of 2008. So as I saw the housing crisis unfold, and as I began to be part of the meetings with Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac and other Washington DC institutions, which pretty much at that time owned more than $12 trillion of the US housing market, it was very evident that here was a place where this was a training, this was actually the opportunity in the project my life has been preparing myself for. It sounds a little bit grandiose. Actually, I feel shy in saying that, but sometimes when you look at it, when you look at the project, it just feels right. That's what it felt for me. If you ask me why it felt right, I could give you a set of logical reasons, but at its core, I would say it struck an emotional chord within me, that here are these house owners, the homeowners, who have been sucked into this web of credit defaults, swaps, and other complicated financial machinery on their own or through other mechanisms. But at the end of the day, they were at the risk of losing their homes, right? I work with a lot of Brazilian companies now, and they say, my home, my castle. So this is the American dream, and here we were looking at 9 to 11 million people losing their homes in foreclosure. So it's definitely, it became my second job during the year of 2009, as I was finally tapping up other projects. I began to really get to the bottom of what was happening in the housing market and how big data and analytics could really provide the help to the borrowers. So what, you wouldn't have guessed that, IBM and mortgage industry, those are the places don't come together. But IBM did, thankfully I would say, actually get into this business in about 2010. The foundations were being built in 2009. Wherein this business focuses on working on something like, close to 500,000 loans on a daily basis. And the objective is to not just provide the usual functions mortgage services do in lending, but also provide the right help to the borrowers. And that's where I would see the perfect nexus and an opportunity for big data and analytics. So on a daily basis, believe it or not, some of the analytical solutions we have built focused around understanding the customer behavior, what drives their intent behind preserving the home, or what are the factors that are turning them away from fighting for the home and walking away. You might have read multitudes of incidents where people were just walking away, or even people were vandalizing the homes. It bothered me immensely that somebody would actually treasure the home, go to the extent of vandalizing their own homes before walking away. What led to all these factors. So we have sufficient information because we have quantitative data about the borrowers, their property they own, and their entire transactions, the loan transactions. Additionally, we also have the voice recordings of what we are telling the agents on the phone. And for the first time in the industry, I could actually bring about audio analytics, speech analytics in terms of getting the true voice of the borrower and really divining the factors that would help a borrower to keep their home and provide the right help. So one analytic solution that we built actually in 33 months saved more than 3,000 borrowers away from the brink of foreclosure. And for the that meant $55 million of credit that they would have otherwise have lost when these homes go on third-party auctions in foreclosure. So the lesson from this for me as I journey through this through the last 4 years, immersing myself in this is often the innocent people get caught, right? So mathematicians and physicists can in the financial market can come up with the more sophisticated schemes to make money, but it's often the innocent people, ordinary people who may not understand what is going on in the Wall Street, get trapped into these, one might say shenanigans. And I felt that despite being part of a private company like IBM, this project gave us the opportunity to really give something back to the society. So we continue to work on, now I'm more focused on not just continuing the work in market servicing. I'm more focused on everybody in the industry adopting the lessons that we have learned, so that the customer experience or treating the borrowers in the right fashion all becomes the norm, right? Because you might know, having read the horrible foreclosure stories on the Wall Street Journal front page and New York Times, this is a collection oriented and therefore tend to provide, let's say, unfavorable treatment of, our customer experience. So we're really changing that. So I think, this was the important problem for me that I've been preparing for, and there might be many more. I hope I'll be able to sink my teeth into. For the youth who are here, daring to dream big and really figuring out, preparing yourself for the opportunity. It may not be obvious when it appears, but it will find you when the moment is right. You will be well prepared to handle that and to provide, do the most good to the, not just to the company you're working for, but to the broader public. So thank you again for bestowing me with this honor. This is an incredible, amazing evening for us. Great food, great company, and happy July. Thank you.
Center to the table. You'll need to fill this out, and there's only one per table. Please only fill this out if you don't intend to participate tomorrow. This will help us, get an accurate sense of head count for tomorrow's breakfast. Now I turn over the microphone to the advisor for the TAB Awards Gala Committee for the vote of thanks, Mrs. Chitra Subramanian. Thank you.
I'm speechless. This is my dream. 6 to 8 months worked so hard with FeTNA board, and finally the night came. But I cannot say much about what went on here. I'm so proud of Saudi and Kritika. I prepared a great speech. I want my husband to deliver this.
Good evening, everyone. My wife was really looking forward to giving this speech, but she's been really emotional and speechless by looking at all these great, accomplished awardees here, and this great event unfolding. So she has asked me to give me the rest of her speech, so I'm speaking on her behalf. Good evening, everyone. As the advisor, that's my wife, to the TAB Awards Gala Committee, I would like to thank these 7 extraordinary awardees for taking the time out of their very busy professional schedules to travel to St. Louis and participate in this inaugural event. I very much appreciate them sharing their wisdom with us this evening. I also would like to thank FeTNA and the audience for supporting this inaugural event. It took a lot of convincing to get FeTNA on board, but we're glad that they eventually embraced this program. I also would like to thank the donors who made this event possible, and would like to recognize TAB patrons here with us tonight, Mrs. Almira Lakshmanan and Dr. Sharmagam Lakshmanan, and Mrs. Prabha Swaminathan and Dr. Bala Swaminathan. I also would like to acknowledge TAB corporate patron, Worldwide Technology. Thank you also to those who gave the time today. I would like to acknowledge Mr. K.K. Sankaran for helping us identify TAB candidates earlier in this year, Mr. Pop Umashankar for designing the official TAB logo, which you can see on the front page of this program guide. He has done an excellent job. Mr. Dharmarajan and Mr. Sharmagam for assisting with the TAB webpage, Mr. Soundar Jayapal for his assistance with the TAB publicity efforts, and Mr. Jovan Fernando for assisting with the TAB registration process. Thank you all to those volunteers who helped us set up today. I would also like to acknowledge the DJ, Mr. Ravi Goswami, and the photographer and the videographer for their help today. Finally, there are two other people I must thank. Tonight's event would not have been possible without the hard work and exceptional dedication of the inaugural TAP Awards Gala Committee co-chairs Kirtika and Chandra. The TAP Awards Gala was Kirtika's brainchild, and she and Soundhi worked tirelessly over the past 8 months to organize this program. Putting together a program of this scale and caliber is certainly no easy task, and they made it work despite planning the program long distance from multiple time zones. When they began planning this program in November last year, Kirtika lived in New York City, and 4 months into the planning process, she transferred to a law firm's office in Palo Alto, California. Despite living in different time zones, they scheduled weekly conference calls and made it work. Their work is especially commendable considering the limited resources they had to plan and execute this program. Despite having only a committee of 2 people, a limited budget, a very busy work schedule as a CPA and a corporate lawyer, and no precedent to follow, they executed the program flawlessly. From designing the program book to fundraising, they have amazed and impressed me with the talents and perseverance in the face of obstacles. Many times their ideas and plans were dismissed or the subject of intense scrutiny and doubt. Despite the setbacks, they strongly believed in the value of the TAP Awards Gala, and they always moved forward. If you ask me, they are pioneers in their own right. They have done what no one else in our Tamil community has done before. The successful evening tonight is a reflection of their hard work, determination, vision, and many talents, and I ask that we all recognize the tremendous efforts. When a successful community effort takes place on a grand scale like this, there are always significant personal sacrifices involved. I would like to personally thank Ramya Parnepan for allowing her mom to be involved in this tedious but ultimately rewarding activity for this community and particularly the younger generation. In Kirtika's case, she worked on TAP in the midst of an East Coast to West Coast relocation and a job as a corporate lawyer that requires at least 60 hours of work a week. Thank you for the personal sacrifices you both made and for opening our eyes to the brilliant high achievers in our Tamil community. This is just the beginning. We hope this becomes an annual tradition and that the 7 TAP awardees present today will serve as mentors and to encourage up-and-coming young Tamil Americans. Thank you all.
Thank you, Chitra Auntie and Money Uncle. What a truly inspirational evening. I hope that all of you have been able to take away some great words of wisdom from our awardees and that their remarks will resonate with you for years to come. Our goal in planning this event was threefold. The first was to honor and celebrate the extraordinary professional achievements of Tamil Americans in a variety of disciplines. We can say that goal was definitely accomplished with the awards presentation that we just witnessed. Our second goal was to provide a formal networking forum for Tamil Americans. We hope that you were able to meet new people this evening during the social hour and dinner. With all the buzzing and activity that I heard going on during the social hour, I think that was accomplished. The TAP Bingo icebreaker hopefully got you talking to some new faces, and the random seating with the dots, I don't really know if that worked out, but we tried. Okay. The networking will continue with the business card exchange. We all know the importance of a great network and the adage of it's not what you know, it's whom you know. In this day of social media, staying connected is not a problem, but we definitely encourage you to use those connections in meaningful ways, such as career or education advice, mentoring, or even relocation questions. Our last goal for the evening was to motivate and inspire younger generations of Tamil Americans. We've seen awardees from a variety of backgrounds and disciplines who've gone on to great success. For our youth, I hope that each of you is able to take away that it is not just one path that leads to success. We've seen awardees who were educated in India, educated in the US, and graduates of various institutions. They all chose different paths, but one thing they have in common is the positive impact they've made into society. They've blazed the trail for you. That's what pioneers do. Now it's time for you to establish your own trail. I hope each and every one of you aspires one day to be on this stage. Speaking of the future, next year's FeTNA conference will be hosted in the Bay Area. Just as the American pioneers did in the 19th century, the Tamil American Pioneer Awards Gala will be moving west as well. As a symbolic token from St. Louis to the Bay Area, we have a program book that's been signed by all 7 of our awardees. I request Dr. Paulraj, Mr. Vijayan, and my co-chair Kritika, who are all from the Bay Area, to please come forward and accept the symbolic token of transfer. I also request anyone in the audience who is part of next year's California FeTNA Conference Planning Committee to please stand to be recognized. Mr. Delay to come forward. He's the president of the Bay Area FeTNA, or Bay Area Tamil Sangam.
No, I'm not a president.
No, not president yet.
I'm the next coordinator for the next year's event. Very impressive event. Just a couple of words. I didn't prepare anything. My name is Dilay Kumaran. I was the past president of FeTNA and next year convention coordinator. So on behalf of FeTNA and our Bay Area Tamil community, I want to invite everybody, every one of you here, come and celebrate Tamil in the Bay Area. And I mean, I don't have to say anything about California. It's one of the greatest places on the earth. So come and enjoy our hospitality. I've been going to FeTNA convention for 20 years, and this is amazing. I'm really impressed. This is the first time this kind of event is happening in a FeTNA convention. I promise we will do better than this. Not that you've done a wonderful job, but we will definitely learn a lot from here, and we will do another tap session it's going to be held in San Jose Bay Area, San Jose downtown. More information will be available in the website soon. Thank you very much.